Avalanche at Blackpool Pleasure Beach has valleyed many times this season, leading to evacuations and recoveries. But why does it keep happening? And could it be signs of a bigger issue? Right, let's start with what has happened then, because numerous times this season, and we're only a few weeks into it, the Avalanche has valleyed. Now, I've seen videos online, I have seen this in person on my own visits, where the train doesn't quite make it to the end of the track and needs to be recovered. Right, so what is valleying then? Well, if you don't already know, it's basically where the train didn't make it all the way around the track. And usually the term comes from the fact that it kind of valleys at the bottom of a lift hill, for example, like kind of goes over, and then at the low point it'll just get there and it'll swing back and forward until it comes to a rest. It's not what happened in the case of Avalanche because it doesn't really have those kind of dips. Usually valleys, or always valleys, at the very end, just before the break run. Reasons for this can vary. Typically, it's things like the wind speed might be kind of slowing the train down, or it's too cold and the bearings aren't warmed up enough, so the wheels aren't going fast enough, or it's wet and there's not enough traction. Various different things. Now, when a train does valley, they're obviously designed to come to stop, or they know where they could come to stop. So they put evacuation platforms in. If you look at the big one, for example, at the bottom of all those drops, there are set steps. So if it came at an end there, then you can get off that quite safely. Usually, though, to recover that train is a little bit more complicated because more often than not, you need to get a crane involved to either take that train apart, rip it off the track, and then put it back together again in the maintenance shed, or drag it to the high point and then let it complete the course. In the case of Avalanche, it's a little bit different because, as I said, it comes to an end at that brake run, and I'm pretty sure they've actually got a winch on site for this very reason, so that they can kind of hook onto the train and just pull it along that last little bit, get it onto the brake run. Now, from what I've heard about Avalanche, and this is not official information from the park, so just take that, bear that in mind. This is kind of rumor and speculation to an extent. That the issue with Avalanche is that the geometry has slightly shifted over the years, wear and tear on the track, slight movement of some of those supports. Obviously, the Pleasure Beach is on sand. Not saying it's kind of sinking, but there will be slight movement over the 40 years. And all of these rides are designed with very, very tight tolerances. Now, that's why usually rides have a maximum wind speed that they can operate in. Similarly, some of them can't run in certain temperatures. Again, as I mentioned earlier, rain, etc., because they need to know that there's a really strong chance that this is going to get around that track. And you will see when they're testing, sometimes they'll put extra weight on the train, water dummies or sandbags, etc., to make sure it happens. And as I say, from what I'm hearing, potentially over the last 40 years, this has just slowly been shifting a little bit till it's now just outside that tolerance, and that the train doesn't always make it round the track. So if you assume that that is true, again, no confirmation of this, but I believe that there has been some communication with Mack Rides, who the park has a very good relationship with. Obviously, they are the manufacturer of this ride, to see what can be done. And again, from what I'm hearing, it's potential that they would need to replace some sections of track that have become worn, and possibly some of the supports. Now, obviously, that is not a cheap job, and I'm not sure it's something that the park would bother investing in. Every park, obviously, is on a budget. They have their priorities where they want to invest that money. We're not living in a time where every park is full of cash and can do whatever they want. So there's obviously going to be some tough decisions here in terms of whether or not there's enough value in investing in this ride. So what are the park going to do? Well, I mean, I can only assume that they are going to do as much as they possibly can to keep the ride going as long as possible. There'll be various things they can try, different wheel compounds, possibly some different lubrication, maybe adjusting the weight of the train, either increasing it or decreasing it to see if that helps, etc. No doubt they are trying lots of things. I mean, the proper solution sounds like quite involved if it does require sections of track to be replaced. It's an aging ride. It's not a ride type that Mack make anymore. There are still a few of them kicking around. They do have one in their own park in Europa Park. So, there will be some limited parts available, but sections of track, on the other hand, would need to be custom made. And that, as I say, is going to be expensive. Worst case scenario, though, the ride might just cease to exist. And I don't think the park's going to do that anytime soon unless they are forced to do so. I suspect they're going to keep it going for as long as possible. There's a lot of people thinking that the ride has been on its last legs in terms of, if you look at that area, they've obviously cleared out Grand Prix and a few of the smaller attractions, and many have speculated that Avalanche is coming to the end of its life anyway, and that would open up a massive space for something new. Which would be true. Definitely, if that ride was removed, there would be a huge area available. The problem I've got is, going back to what I said earlier about parks all being on a budget, the worst case scenario is that the ride does come to a close and either stands SBNO standing by not operating, or they demolish it like they did with Grand Prix, and then we've just got this massive section in the middle of the park that's empty. Very different if the ride comes to end of life at the same point that they have the finances and the plans to replace it with something. And I'm sure that is probably what they want to do. Obviously, the Grand Prix site is empty right now. I'd heard it probably will be a couple of years before we see something. Again, not officially from the park. Maybe they were hoping, like, right, we'll wait a few years. You know, Avalanche has got 2, 3, 4 years left in it. We'll decommission that, and then we'll put this bigger ride in. So maybe this is the plan anyway. I just worry that their timelines might be forced upon them if this ride is troublesome. I'd love to know your thoughts on this one, whether you really like the Avalanche and would be sad to see it go, or whether you think it has had its day. And of course, your thoughts on what would happen if it does come to end of life quicker than expected. As always, I've been Chris, you've been watching Coaster Dad, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios. Avalanche at Blackpool Pleasure Beach has valied many times already this year. The question is this something leading to evacuations and recoveries? And I still can't remember the next sentence. They can get people off safely, but then usually they'll have to get a train? No.